It's a weird thing to say that it's okay to hate someone, and who am I to tell you who you can and cannot like? But it really is alright to dislike, to hate Ryomen Sukuna, and why would it not be okay to hate him before? What makes it okay to hate him now? I'm gonna try and explain. If you agree, that's great. If you don't agree, even better. Let me know why you don't disagree. Ryomen Sukuna is the king of all curses in Jujutsu Kaisen, and his entrance, his introduction was epic to say the least, as he took over Yuji and he made easy work of the other curses, only to be fought and to be matched by one Satoru Gojo. And that's exactly why it made Gojo such a badass. Now, if you look at that initial fight, there's one moment, there's one still frame that will always be burnt in everyone's memory when they're trying to get people to watch Jujutsu Kaisen, and that is Gojo versus Yuji possessed Sukuna as Gojo sits on his back. He was mocking him. He was actually taking the piss out of him, and it made us fall in love with Gojo. It made us really, really enjoy Gojo, but we also understand how much of a brute, how much of an absolute beast Sukuna is. As we saw in Season 1 and Season 2, when Sukuna makes an appearance, he takes all of the spotlight. It's very similar to the way Naruto handled the appearance of the nine-tailed fox, the Kyuubi, because every single time the Kyuubi Kurama made an appearance, it was... wow, there was a lot of havoc. I'm talking about early Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, whereby it was berserk mode. Nobody was safe, nobody. And you get that same feeling with Sukuna, but the difference is Sukuna's sentient, he's smart. So when he takes over, he has a plan and is always thinking and planning ahead. And I'm sure we'll see the fruits of that planning later within the series. And that difference of the way Sukuna is behaving when he is out in the open compared to the berserk nine-tailed fox within Naruto is very apparent. And the reason why it becomes a problem is when the nine-tailed fox made an appearance and was berserk, friend or foe, everyone is in danger. Whereas we get that same level or a similar level of danger with Sukuna's appearance. However, you have to play to his ego. He has only been fighting mainly villains, whether they're finger bearers or the disaster curses, or again making his stance, making his stature known amongst all of them. When Mahito tried to touch him, said, "Who the hell are you? Don't touch me. If you touch me again, you will see what happens to you." And it's because of the fight with Jogo which made me think, what's happening here? Why is Sukuna fighting against Jogo? Yeah, I get it. They want to test their strength and he's bored. I get the rationale and the justification amongst the characters within the universe, but as a viewer, I'm like, what's going on? When you're looking at a story, there tends to be a good guy, bad guy. Look at wrestling even. They got something called faces and heels. Face means good guy, heel means bad guy. It's always a little weird when two heels, two bad guys fight each other or wrestle against each other, because there never is a overarching story. Usually you can rely and fall back on story tropes such as good guy, bad guy, blah blah blah. Whereas when we saw Sukuna vs Jogo, you're like, wait a minute, I'm sympathizing with them. What's going on? I'm actually being a bit more empathetic towards these curses. So it confuses me as the viewer, but that's not a bad thing. That's showing the different layers that Jujutsu Kaisen is able to convey. This is where the problem comes. Jujutsu Kaisen is about curses. It's about Jujutsu High. It's about the notion of Jujutsu sorcerers against cursed spirits and exercising them. The main character is Itadori Yuji, but he doesn't feel like a main character. The attention and all of the spotlight is on Satoru Gojo. Gojo is an absolute beast, and he actually cemented why he deserves all of the spotlight, and in the hierarchy of badass characters, why he is higher than Sukuna during that fight against Yuji possessed Sukuna in that first encounter where he sat on his back. So when Gojo was sealed away, I'll be honest with you, a lot of people lost interest. It may sound blasphemous to you, but a lot of people were getting bored of Jujutsu Kaisen. It may sound horrendous to say that the Culling Games was just not doing it. I think it's fair to say that this was somewhat of a dry period during the sealing of Gojo. As he was sealed, we were just like, all right, what's going on here? And I felt like Gojo was carrying the series, or was perceived to be carrying the series for a long time. It shifted to the next badass character, and it should have been Yuji, it should have been Megumi, it should have been everyone else. It should not have been Sukuna. And I feel like there was a reluctance, a hesitancy with the fans to criticize or hate Sukuna or kind of root against Sukuna. We had too many players still at play. We had Geto / Kenjaku, but we never had the disaster curses. So even though we had other villains, we had two villains, Kenjaku and Sukuna, where Kenjaku is looked to be the real evil bad guy and Sukuna is looked to be the berserk, unknown X Factor. We didn't class him as a good or bad guy. I don't think a lot of people were classing him as a good or bad guy. And I don't want to make this comparison. I hate to make this comparison. And apologies if this does offend you, but it was very similar to Fairy Tail, where in Fairy Tail, which is a anime about wizards and guilds, we had this X Factor called Agnologia, which was this dragon that was not able to be controlled and was allowed to just roam free and cause as much havoc as possible, and was more of a, again a wrestling term, tweener, not a face, not a heel, not a good guy, not a bad guy, but just a force of nature. And that's what Sukuna was, and Sukuna is a force of nature. But Sukuna was handling and carrying the burden, carrying the show that is Jujutsu Kaisen, until Gojo was re-released or released from his seal. You felt, okay, now it's okay, now we can actually hate Sukuna now. We can root for our best boy. We can root for Gojo against Sukuna. And that's what people did. People were rooting for Gojo until Gojo got defeated. And this is where it's getting problematic. Right now, Jujutsu Kaisen is simply Sukuna versus everyone. And the way Sukuna has been portrayed, how do you justify a means of defeating him? How do you come to a point where it's believable that doesn't require Deus Ex Machina of defeating Sukuna? And we need to understand that it's okay to hate Sukuna. It's okay to now want him to be defeated. And I think people are leaning more towards that. Is it because we're getting sick of Sukuna being this undefeatable, oh, I'm always holding back kind of guy? Or is it simply Yuta, Maki, Yuji are finally getting the attention, the support that they deserve as main protagonists, as good guys? The one thing I really don't want Jujutsu Kaisen to become, and it really is a fear, I'm a big Yu-Gi-Oh anime fan, and the anime Yu-Gi-Oh Arc 5 had a main villain called Zark, and Zark was fighting against all of these characters, but it was more like a rotisserie. One by one they came and they got defeated, and they came one by one, then two by two, but they all got swatted away. We're seeing that with Sukuna. Sukuna defeats Gojo, Yuta, everyone that comes forward is getting defeated, and they're getting defeated by either easy fashion or when you look at it retrospectively, he was holding back. I want the defeat of Sukuna to be justified, or I want the victory of Sukuna to be bittersweet, because I am starting to hate Ryomen Sukuna, and hopefully Yuji, Maki, Yuta can step up, save Megumi, and get rid of this fiend.